Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Napoleon, and today we're going to be doing a video on the Lanchester, a British submachine gun in Enlisted. This video is going to cover the history, the weapon itself, and what and how you should use the weapon in-game. This video has been obviously made through friends at Discord, meaning that if you haven't liked, subscribed, or joined the Discord, I highly suggest that you do. But that said, without further ado, let's get started with the video on the Lanchester. After the disastrous military campaign in France and the evacuation from Dunkirk in June of 1940, the British Ordnance Board realized that the Britain's small arms arsenal was sorely lacking compared to Germany's, and they have extensive immediate repairs to get equivalent of the German MP-38 submachine guns. The British Expeditionary Force had trialed a series of submachine guns in France in the previous year and selected the Thompson, which was now being equipped to the army. However, the imminent threat of a German invasion led to the armed forces, and the Air Force in particular, to demand a similarly weapon to defend its airfields. Initially, they demanded 10,000 British-made copies of the MP-38, but this provided impossible, so the order was changed to Ministry supplies of 50,000 copies of the MP-28. Sterling Armaments of Denham was given 4 months to produce a batch of prototypes. The weapon was handled by George Herbert Lanchester, whom from the finished weapon eventually got its name. The two prototypes were testing on the 8th and 13th of November 1940, and they were requested clones of the MP-28. The first prototype proved to be unsatisfactory and encountered stoppages when using ammunition supplied by Winchester and Imperial Chemical Industries. The second prototype functions perfectly with all the ammunition tested, and the weapon was accepted for troop trials. The insurance trials were then scheduled on the 28th of November of 1940. The gun was overseen by Major Reinley von V. Steppard, and the gun was now in the fourth prototype and went through 5,204 rounds of ammunition with very few stoppages. It was past all the torture tests and functions with almost every type of 9.19mm cartridge, with the exception of those by the Beretta. It was decided by the Ordnance Board to adopt the weapon as the Lanchester Mark I, and its production rights were handed to the Royal Navy. The Lanchester was immediately pressed into service with the Royal Air Force, the Royal Navy, and then it was where it replaced the hazardly unreliable Smith & Wesson light rifle. Honestly, anything that replaces the Smith & Wesson light rifle, with some exceptions, I would accept. The Lanchester was never rightly issued to the Army, whose requirements were fulfilled by the American-supplied Thompson, and later the British-made Sten. The Lanchester was officially retracted from naval service in 1960, although some guns were issued past that date. George Lanchester also developed a stripped-down model of the weapon for the Army, but it was rejected in favor of the Sten in 1941. And that is the Sten in terms of the history. Let's move on to the characteristics. In terms of the characteristics, the Lanchester was a simple blowback operated submachine gun widely based on the Brigham MP-28. 2. It fired from an open bolt and clocked from the right side, and the only major differences in the design was the addition of the fire selector in the form of a small lever located in the front of the trigger. This feature was deemed unnecessary and removed in the Mark I version. And the standard manufacturing was good, owing to its manufacture by the Navy. Brass components were used to make up the magazine fed, and the gun was very heavy and solidly built. 50-round magazines were used and fed into the left side of the receiver. That one is obviously for the Navy. The Lanchester that we have in-game is quite different, and speaking of in-game, let's move on to the stats. So to recap for the Lanchester, I believe the Lanchester is a pretty good gun. As a matter of fact, I would consider it way better than the MP-30, MP-38. I actually would consider it slightly better than the MP-40, considering the fact that the MP-40 literally has some of the best recoil, and the Lanchester is up there. Honestly, the Lanchester, when used with minus 40% recoil reduction, you're gonna get a lot of non-recoil buffs, which is pretty good. Thanks to the last update, which literally all the semi-automatic weapons and the automatic submachine guns have been buffed, this Lanchester now slightly goes to the right, which is a big issue. Which, let's be honest, is really not an issue, but apparently the Lanchester is one of those guns that actually has been debuffed or buffed a lot more than other weapons. And the reason is because this weapon goes to the right a lot more than some guns like the MP-40. So after this update, I wouldn't say that this weapon is as good as the MP-40. The MP-40 appears to be way better in terms of long-range distance fighting, from what it looks like. But the Lanchester is nothing to be taken apart from. The Lanchester is still very stable, especially at close ranges, which is something that you really need. And yeah, it's basically pretty big update from the Sten Mark II. But I will still not take the Lanchester, where I'll be getting the Thompson instead of the Lanchester. But that's it. This is the Lanchester, a pretty good gun, a pretty solid recoil, pretty good stuff. but is it really worth it? It really depends up to you, but that said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I would be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.